Hiking the Maple Springs Loop in Silverado. Parking is 19 miles from the 91 freeway. Park in the parking lot at the end of Silverado Canyon Road. From there, I formed a wide loop to include summiting 7 peaks. The difficulty rating for the hike is strenuous. The hike begins. One of many creek crossings over the road. The road enters a canyon that looks like something out of Oregon. Meanwhile, the paved road goes for about 3.5 miles before climbing out, getting more wet toes. A small roadside waterfall near the end of the canyon. The road turns to dirt and climbs out of the canyon. It then switchbacks up the slopes. Passing through the Brian Powell Grove. The climb is long and mostly unshaded. The road is also open to motorized vehicles. Reaching the saddle between Majeska Peak and Maple Springs Point. Picking up the use trail to Maple Springs Point. Actually leaving the road for the first time in about 7.5 miles. A use trail follows a gully to the summit. At last, arriving at the first peak on the loop. On the summit of Maple Springs Point. Elevation, 4,570 feet. Leaving the summit. Approaching the saddle. Marching past the saddle on Main Divide to complete the second half of the hike. Viewing across the canyon to Maple Springs Road. Peak number 2 ahead, Peak 4380. Leaving the road on the Peak Use Trail. Approaching the summit. On the summit of Peak 4380. The camera was temporarily smudged for the next peak. A mysterious summit cage. Whatever was in there got away. On the summit of Peak 4260. The summit shots. With a clean lens, the hike continues. Quickly arriving at the next peak. Approaching the summit. On the summit of peak number 4, Peak 4120. The Summit 360. Dropping back down to the road. Bald Peak was the next one ahead. Picking up the Summit Use Trail. A short but steep climb, especially after a long day hike. On the summit of Bald Peak, peak number 5. The Summit 360. Continuing down the other side. Approaching peak number 6, peak 3820. Nearing the top. On the summit of peak 3820. Continuing down the other side. Approaching peak 3840. Unfortunately, I was too worn down to want to climb it. Instead, I saved myself for the last peak, Bedford Peak. Arriving at the Summit Use Trail. Approaching the summit. On the summit of Bedford Peak, peak number 7. The Summit 360. Elevation, 3,800 feet. Seven out of 8 peaks isn't bad. Finishing up the time on Main Divide Road. Arriving at Silverado Motorway. With about 2.5 miles to go, it is downhill all the way to the start. Many varieties of flowers to catch the eye. Ready to go around the bend and finish the loop. Mission accomplished. The Maple Springs Loop is more than a hike. It is a commitment to a full day of hiking. I had to hike 7.5 miles before reaching the first peak. In the rest of the loop, the hike visits and/or passes another 7 peaks. I summit all but one of them. before descending Silverado motorway to complete the loop. When finished, it felt like a grand achievement, because after all, it was for a hiker, since only mountain bikers or off-roaders often make it this far along the loop. Once reaching Bedford Peak, the long day of climbing finally relented. I barely had enough water to make it back down to the start. Ample water and electrolytes are needed on this one.